The BYU basketball program has taken a lot of the headlines around BYU sports of late, and for good reason. A lot of intrigue and a lot of fire with KYU taking over there. Doesn't mean BYU football isn't doing work as well, and that yielded the commitment of Isaiah Jatta yesterday, a transfer portal target that seals up BYU's offensive line class for the upcoming season, and I think it's a very, very nice addition. We'll talk about that. We're also going to get to know his new teammate, Austin Leausa, on today's show as well.
You are Locked On Cougars, your daily podcast on the BYU Cougars, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, everybody? I'm Jake Hatch, your host here on Locked On Cougars, your resident BYU insider. Thank you for making Locked On Cougars your first listen of the day. Appreciate all of you who like to call everydayers right here on the Locked On Podcast Network. The motto is your team every day, and this is your original daily podcast focused on the BYU Cougars. Let's dive right in on today's show and talk about a new commitment for the BYU football program coming in the form of Colorado transfer Isaiah Jatta. Now, we've talked about him of late. He officially visited BYU last week, and there was some intrigue that USC, his quote-unquote hometown team, may get in the mix. Now, Isaiah made a trip to BYU last week and then followed that up with a trip to USC and officially announced he's committed to BYU. Is that mean that BYU outdid USC? Maybe so, but Isaiah Jatta sees something in the BYU football program that he wants to be a part of. I think this is a very, very savvy pickup for the BYU football program in that this is a guy who has already had reps both at the junior college level because he spent 2 years playing at Snow College in Ephraim, Utah. So his familiarity with the Beehive State is absolutely not going to be a hindrance. And also he spent last year playing for Deion Sanders and the Colorado Buffaloes. If you watch his highlight tape from Colorado, it doesn't yield a lot because he was relegated to more of a backup role last year. And the reps that he did see, it seemed like he might have been a little bit overwhelmed. Was the leap up in competition from the junior college to the Power 5 level maybe a bit too much for him? Maybe so. But I think that experience that he got at Colorado is going to have him better prepared for what he's going to face when he gets to BYU. Now, playing at Colorado in the Pac-12, it's very similar to what he's going to be facing playing for BYU in the Big 12. Can he get up to speed? Can he spend this summer honing his craft? And can he come into training camp in August and push either Braden Keim and or Caleb Etienne at either tackle spot for BYU along that offensive front? That is the hope that BYU has for Isaiah Jatta coming in. Some of you may be wondering exactly what he is going to be offering to BYU as an offensive tackle prospect, but the bigger point to be made here is that Isaiah is a guy that I think has the capability of potentially starting for the Cougars if he gets it right. He does have 1 year of eligibility remaining. He's got a redshirt year to go along with that. He's the quote-unquote 2-for-1, as it were. So if injury pops up or anything else that might preclude him from playing, he can redshirt and obviously hold on to that year of eligibility. But I think the whole intention of him coming to BYU at this point is he is going to be a starting caliber offensive lineman for the Cougars, and that's why BYU is bringing him in. They're not bringing him in thinking, hey, it's nice to have a depth piece for a year. That's great and all. But BYU wants guys along that offensive line that are going to be able to challenge for playing time right away and push the guys that are already there. It's pretty clear coming out of spring camp that Braden Keim as well as Caleb Etienne are probably your starting two tackles right now, but it's written in pencil. That could change very quickly in training camp. That's why it's a month long. You get a lot of competition. And in that time, the hope is for a guy like Isaiah Jatta, he can come in and really push those two for playing time. And if he's good enough, still one of their jobs. That is the whole old adage of iron sharpens iron. And we know from BYU history of yesteryear, Jeff Grimes liked to preach iron sharpens iron. TJ Woods, in my conversations with him as well, he is of similar mindset. He wants the best offensive lineman he can possibly get in that position group room, and he's going to let them battle out, duke it out for playing time. Whoever is the better player is ultimately going to earn that spot, and they will therefore be on the field more, getting those reps. So I think this is a very savvy pickup for the Cougars because Isaiah is going to be very, very motivated as he comes to BYU to prove that he's going to be able to get it right for the Cougars. He's got a very, very short time window to show that as well, because with 1 year of eligibility, there's no time to waste. If you want to live your dreams and play at the professional level, well, you got to have game tape, and you got to be able to show people that you can play at the Power 5 football level. He was a junior college All-American, so there is talent there. There's undeniable talent. 6'6", 300 pounds, and very much looks the part of a premier offensive tackle. And the hope is that after that year at Colorado, getting trained up by the Buffaloes, he can take what he experienced last year, build upon that, and bring that to BYU and allow that to be essentially the linchpin or the launching off point for him to go out and have a stellar senior season with the BYU football program. Let me also say this. I said he has that redshirt year. Let's say it doesn't work out for whatever reason, injury, just maybe he's not necessarily up to speed right away for BYU come this fall. Well, the thing is, he has that redshirt year, and he's still a relatively young man. Maybe he utilizes that chance to redshirt, sit out a season, and then ultimately chase it in 25 for BYU when ostensibly both Braden Keim and Caleb Etienne have exited the program, and there is an opening at either tackle spot. I'm not saying that's the plan BYU has for him right now, because you wouldn't be bringing in a guy with 1 year of eligibility thinking that you're going to go out there and redshirt him for a season, but that possibility exists because he does have that redshirt year in his back pocket. But I think it's a very, very savvy pickup for BYU to bring a guy of Jatta's caliber into the BYU football program. It bolsters an offensive line unit that Aaron Roderick was very clear they needed to add some bodies to. They talked about getting one guy on the interior to play one of the 3 interior guard and center spots, and then one guy to play on the tackle side of things. And they've gotten both of those 2 in the last couple of weeks with their commitments from Austin Leausa as well as Isaiah Jatta as of yesterday. So I think the Cougars, I know I mentioned in the open that BYU basketball, a lot of their headlines have been kind of the big stories around BYU athletics, but do not ignore what BYU football is doing here. They're going about things methodically, bolstering their lineup, and the hope is that the continuity on the roster already, aided by adding a couple of guys like Austin Leausa as well as Isaiah Jatta along this offensive line, will have them better prepared to compete and have a better outcome in year 2 in the Big 12 this fall. So a lot of things to pay attention to and a lot of things to track, but I think this is a very, very good pickup for BYU football, and it just adds to, I think, is a very solid run right now as BYU goes about adding bits and pieces here and there in their football program with the hopes of improving in the Big 12 Conference this fall. All right, I mentioned Austin Leausa. We're going to talk with him next. I had a great opportunity to catch up with him, let you guys get to know him a little bit more, what he expects to accomplish as a BYU Cougar as he transfers in from Southern Utah University. We'll get to that next right here on Locked On Cougars. Today's show is brought to you by our friends over at LinkedIn. Now, LinkedIn is here for you guys when you're hiring for small business. You want to find quality professionals that are right for the role. That's why you guys need to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs has the tools to help you find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. The best part is it's not just a job board, speaking of LinkedIn. LinkedIn helps you hire professionals you can't find literally anywhere else. 70% of LinkedIn users don't visit other leading job boards on a weekly or monthly basis. So if you're not looking on LinkedIn, you're looking in the wrong spot for the people you want to hire. The best part is on LinkedIn, 86% of small businesses are getting qualified candidates within 24 hours of their job posting. Hire professionals like a professional and do it with our friends on LinkedIn. They know small businesses are wearing many hats, might not have the adequate times or resources to hire. They want to make that as simple as possible for you guys. So go to linkedin.com/lockedoncollege and post your job for free. You heard that right. FREE. 2.5 million small businesses are using LinkedIn for their hiring. Why aren't you? So once again, that's linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. Post that job for free. Of course, terms and conditions apply. Please welcome in now Austin Leausa, new BYU offensive lineman transferring in from Southern Utah University. We just talked about Isaiah Jatta, who will be his new teammate. But Austin, I want to start here with you. How are things at BYU so far? I know you recently enrolled and started working out with the team, but how is everything treating you so far in Provo?
Yeah, everything's been good in Provo so far. Me and my family, we love the atmosphere here. The coach has been doing a great job, just making us feel welcome. The players have done a great job of that as well. So we feel right at home here in Provo.
Now, you've had a bit of a circuitous route to get to this point. Time at Southern Utah, a short stint at Utah State, and then going back to Southern Utah to play. But I guess all's well that ends well in a way as you end up at BYU. Can you just explain what's happened in your journey that's led you to this point?
Yeah, so coming home from my mission in 2019, I started my career off at Southern Utah in 2020. Then just due to COVID, obviously, we didn't play that year. 2021 was my freshman year, and I started there. And then after the 2021 season, I had our first daughter, my first daughter, and I just, I thought it was my time to hang up the cleats, actually, and just be a father and do my duties there. But talked to some coaches, and then ultimately hit the portal. landed at Utah State. Didn't play at all there. Just wasn't the right fit. Didn't work out for us. Technically redshirted that 2022 year. And then I had a couple of buddies that were still on the team in 2023 at Southern Utah, and they had asked the head coach there if he would let me come back. And then, we got talking, and ultimately he let me come back. And then I started all 11 games last season at Southern Utah.
Now you transfer to BYU now, and I think most people are expecting you to compete along the interior of that offensive line. Can you give us a little bit of insight as to what you believe what your strengths as an offensive lineman are?
Yeah, so I think one of my biggest strengths as an offensive lineman and what I can add to the room is, I feel like I pick up on a lot of things quick. I think my athleticism helps me out a lot. And then my strength also plays a big role in how I play football. I like to do it the best way that I can and in the way that I'm coached. And I feel like that's, in an aggressive way. And I think that's what got me here to BYU. So I think that plays a pretty vital role in how I play football and who I want to be, looked at as a football player.
Obviously, I'm sure you had conversations with guys like Aaron Roderick and TJ Woods. I want to start with Coach Woods, new offensive line coach at BYU. But what have you learned from him so far? What have your interactions been like?
Yeah, the biggest thing that I've learned from Coach Woods so far is you just got to be you. You got to play your game. Take everything that he has for us, all the coaching points. From him, from the older guys in the group like Connor and Caleb, and just be a sponge. And be able to adapt. And to continue to build and stack the days. Because, especially as a transfer, you're coming into a new room, new team, and new everything. I think you just got to, you got to be a team player and kind of take on that role as just learning again. So I think that's a big thing that he's emphasized. But the room has been super helpful as well, like those older guys I mentioned, and even the younger guys as well. So it's been good.
Now, I'll pull back the curtain a little bit for you. Connor Pay is a regular guest on this podcast. We've actually had him on throughout the past season, and he is, let's just put it this way, he is an intense individual, and he is intent on making sure they don't have some of the struggles they had last year. What have your conversations with him how have they been so far?
Connor's he's been doing a good job of getting the O-line ready. We started to do a little bit of O-line work. We do that about 4 times a week, and he's taken pride in, teaching us and making sure that we have the basic fundamentals down and, just keep stacking those days. Just like I was saying earlier, he's done a great job of doing that. Caleb as well. Waylon's done a good job of it as well. They're just, they're the older guys in the group that have been here the longest. And I think they've done a great job.
Now, with the offense the BYU runs, it's that zone blocking scheme. How do you feel you fit in with that? Do you feel like it'll be something you'll be able to adapt to very quickly?
Yeah, so that's a big reason why I came here. It's a very O-line friendly offense. We do a lot of things behind the O-line, on the sides of the O-line, obviously, and then it's an O-line dreams offense to play on in this offense. The offense that we run, we want to be a run-first offense, obviously. And so I think BYU is that. They want to establish the run game, and that's my favorite part of football is being able to run the ball and gash people. So I think I'll fit in just great. I'm able to run the scheme. I feel like I've picked it up pretty well so far.
Now, I'm sure you have some relationship with Mata Avataase to some level, transfer from Southern Utah to zone right. Did you talk with him at all throughout this process in terms of transferring?
Yeah, so once I hit the portal, he kind of hit me up a little bit and asked me just, where my head's at and what I kind of want to do and if I think I'd be a good fit at BYU. And, as I was going throughout that recruitment process after hitting the portal and everything and having that conversation with him, I just felt like it was honestly meant to be. I thought it was a good opportunity for me to showcase my talents and abilities and be the best teammate that I can. And to continue to elevate the guys around me as I continue to elevate them. So
now Tava has got an interesting story of his own because I know he showed up to BYU as a walk-on at transfer to Southern Utah, and Aaron Roderick said it on the record. He said he was an 8th string tight end when we brought him in, and he went through training camp, went from 8th string to 2nd string last year. Essentially, was the number 2 guy behind Isaac Rex, and I'm sure there's some BYU fans out there looking at Austin Leausa saying, "Hey, can he do exactly what Tava did? Can he come in and rise up the depth chart right away? Is that what your aspiration is, that you can come in and play right away?"
Yeah, I definitely Yeah, I definitely didn't want to come to BYU and, kind of watch. I definitely wanted to contribute, right, from the get as much as I could, as much as I can. I mean, ultimately, that's up to me and what the coaches think if I'm ready or not. But I know that, if I continue to put in the work, just like Tava did, if I continue to put in the work and do my due diligence each and every day, I feel like I have a good chance and opportunity to, week one, be out there with the starting five.
Now, you're a kid that's from Northern Utah, West Jordan High School, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, sir.
Did you grow up a BYU guy, a Utah guy? What's your background with the rivalry?
Oh man, I grew up the biggest BYU fan.
Okay.
I mean, when I hit the portal and I saw Harvey Uma text me, I was low key fanboy, and I was like, oh my gosh, I nudged my wife and I was like, oh my gosh, Harvey Uma's texting me. Just the biggest BYU fan growing up. It's always been a dream of mine to come here, and so when Coach Woods called me after hitting the portal, it was honestly a dream come true.
Obviously, did you have aspirations coming out of high school that you could get to BYU right out of the chute, or did you understand it was going to maybe take a process like this to get there?
Yeah, no, I definitely knew BYU wasn't gonna. I definitely knew they weren't gonna come after me in high school. I was pretty short in high school. I was only like 6'1", wasn't very big. I was kind of just a little athletic guy playing O-line, but yeah, had no. I mean, obviously it was the dream. I was aspiring to do that, but at the end of the day, I came to reality with myself that I was going to take a different path.
Okay, so if you were 6'1" in high school, where'd all the height come from all of a sudden?
So I got to thank my mission for that. And the people of the Philippines. They did a good job of feeding me, and all that walking we did in that heat. I think it stretched me a little bit, so it was good.
Which mission in the Philippines, by the way?
I served in the Kauaian Philippines mission.
Okay, well, very cool. I remember seeing the fact that you were 6'1" at one point. Now you're 6'5" or whatever you are. It's actually kind of crazy to consider you did while you were out in the mission field.
What was that? Sorry.
I was just saying, like, it's incredible to consider you were 6'1" in high school. You said now you're 6'1", and you did that all in the mission field. Apparently, that's incredible.
Yeah, I did that all in the mission. It was crazy. I don't know. I came home and I was like, man, everyone's a little bit shorter. Yeah.
So overall, as you look forward here, how big of a role did BYU being in the Big 12 and be able to compete at that level have in terms of your decision to come to BYU outside of being a big fan of the Cougars?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing for me was I had a lot of Big 12 schools reaching out to me. Obviously, Baylor and Houston, they were big on me, but I think at the end of the day, it was the offense, just being O-line friendly, and just the offense is a nasty offense for the offensive line. It's just built for us. And so that's what I wanted to play in. I was telling every single coach, because they asked me what I'm looking for, and I told them I want an O-line friendly offense. And I just felt that's what BYU separated. That's what I feel like how BYU separated from the other schools, other than, them taking care of me and my family and everything. But that's what separated them from all the other schools, and what ultimately, made me want to come play here.
You talk about wanting to have a dominant run game at BYU, and that was kind of the message throughout spring camp from Connor Pay, Aaron Roderick. Essentially, everybody we talked to offensively from BYU talked about getting back to running the ball. Has that been essentially the message throughout this workout period so far?
Yeah, it's definitely been a big emphasis. We've actually hired. We got 2 new GAs that came on, and I know that Coach Woods coached both of them. One of them was at Oregon State when he was there. One of them was at Utah State, and they ran the heck out of the ball when they were there. And they're a big reason why I think we're getting better and better each and every day in the run game. I think our mentality is changing. Just the aura in the room of when we hear a run play, I think is going to change over the course of the summer, fall camp, and then ultimately when we get into the season, it's going to be awesome.
Have you had any interactions with Isaiah Jatta so far? Recently committed to BYU and will be with you in that offensive line room as well.
Yeah, no, I haven't. He just committed today, so I haven't had any interaction with him. I know he got added to our group chat as the O-line, and it was super good to kind of just see his name pop up and then put a face to the name. Yeah. But other than that, I haven't had any communication with him yet. But I'm super excited to meet him.
I guess last thing for me, Austin, is you're a guy. You said you grew up a BYU fan, so I'm sure you've been in Lavelle Edwards Stadium as a fan before. But what are you looking forward to, just as a player, being able to run out on the field there come this August?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing all the fans and seeing everybody come out and support. I'm especially looking forward to my family being in the stands, being able to watch me in the jersey and the uniform that I wanted to be in since I was a little kid. And then, just looking forward to hugging my 2 daughters and my beautiful wife after each and every game too. So,
have you settled on a number you're going to be wearing so people can keep an eye out for you?
Yeah, I'm hoping to get 55.
Okay.
I know I talked to the equipment staff, and they did say it was open. So hopefully I can get 55. I wore 70 at Southern Utah, but obviously Connor, him being, the guy here, and so him being number 70. So I'm going to wear 55. Hopefully I'm going to wear 55.
All right, well, Cougar fans, you look for number 55 on that offensive line. You'll be able to see Austin Leausa out there doing his thing. And looking forward to you and your family joining the Cougar fraternity, Austin. And appreciate you taking some time to join us here on the podcast.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
There you have it, Austin Leausa, BYU offensive lineman. And don't be surprised, folks, if he's challenging for playing time at guard right alongside Connor Pay and Waylon Lapuaho on the interior of that offensive line. Honestly, I could see a scenario where Isaiah Jatta and Austin Leausa maybe make up the right side of BYU's offensive line. Maybe that left tackle spot's Braden Keim. Waylon Lapuaho is entrenched at left guard. Connor Pay, obviously, our good friend here on the podcast we just talked about with Austin, is going to be your guy at center. But there's a real scenario that I could see the Austin Leausa is your starting right guard and Isaiah Jatta is your starting right tackle. That is why BYU brought in these 2 offensive linemen. Speaking of Leausa and Jatta, they are expected to come in, compete for playing time, and really help BYU, as Austin alluded to, get back to being that ferocious running team that they were in 2020, 2021, 2022. Remember those teams, they were so good and they were led by some very talented offensive line units, and that is what BYU is hoping they can get back to this fall as they go back into Big 12 play. All right, coming up here in just a minute, we'll stick with the Big 12 theme, but we're going to switch over to basketball for a moment here. We learned more about what the Big 12 is going to do with their conference scheduling next year for Kevin Young's first year on the sidelines of the BYU basketball program. And let's just put it this way. It's already brutal to be playing in the Big 12. It's going to get even harder next year. We'll talk about that next, right here on Locked On Cougars. Today's show is brought to you by our friends over at Yahoo Finance. Now, Yahoo Finance is here for you guys to help you out wherever you might be in your life's journey. Now, all of us, we're all in this little bit of a rat race trying to make sure that our finances are secure as they possibly can be. But wouldn't it be great if you could see all of your investment and retirement accounts in one place? Well, with Yahoo Finance, you can consolidate your views from multiple accounts into one hub and access the expert analysis you need to tend to your entire portfolio with confidence. That's the best part about it. It just brings it all in-house and makes it in a one-stop shop so you guys can track it all. The best part is when it comes to your financial future, you think you've done it all, you've saved, you researched, you've invested all that you can. Now you need to take those investments to the next level by using what every financial great uses, and that's our friends over at Yahoo Finance. For more than 25 years, Yahoo Finance has been the brand behind every great investor. Whether you're a seasoned investor or a guy who's more of a neophyte like myself, trust me, I'm not necessarily an expert when it comes to this. Yahoo Finance gives you all the tools and data you need in one place to help you guys make the right decisions along your journey. With a community of over 90 million users each month, the Real Strength is helping you on your way to financial success. So for a comprehensive financial news and analysis, visit the brand behind every great investment. That's our friends at yahoofinance.com. They are the #1 financial destination. That's yahoofinance.com. One more time, yahoofinance.com. Thank you once again for making Locked On Cougars your first listen of the day. If you've not joined our Locked On Cougars Insider Group, please consider doing so. Click the link in the show notes below, whether you're watching and or listening to it. It's a great way to interact with us here on the show. The best part is you also can get those updates I'm sending out via our Insiders Group. They come to your phone in the form of a text message. It doesn't get much simpler than that to get the intel that you're looking for. You don't have to log on to some chat room. You don't have to go searching for it. It comes to your phone in the form of a text message. You can fire back with the text message of your own. We can have one-on-one conversations with myself. 14-day free trial to see if it's the right option for you, and just $5 a month afterwards. And appreciate all of you who have signed up so far, and hope many more of you will be joining us on our Locked On Cougars Insider Group in the days to come. All right, let's talk about an interesting note we learned yesterday from John Rossi. And obviously, he is the man when it comes to news on college basketball. He talks about the whole thing, we're sleeping May. Well, John's not sleeping right now because he says this, sources, the Big 12 will play its first league games of the 2024-2025 basketball season on December 30th and 31st, ringing in the new year with Big 12 hoops. But with that said, the conference is going to a 20-game league schedule, meaning that each team will play 2 league games per week next season with 0 byes. Folks, They played 18 games this year. Remember how brutal that Big 12 slate was for BYU. They obviously navigated quite well with the finish they had, finishing in 5th place in the Big 12. But to add 2 more conference games, and oh, by the way, not moving up the conference slate. I thought they may have moved it up a week to around the Christmas time to be able to allow for those bye weeks. But Brett Yormark and the brain trust of the Big 12 said, yeah, no, you know what? We're not doing that. We're going to tip it off right around New Year, and we're just going to go 20 games straight through, and it's going to be an absolute gauntlet for every team in this league. Now, there's going to be 16 teams in the Big 12, obviously. I'm sure BYU will be playing a home and home against Utah. I'm sure there'll be some more of these Western series. Arizona State, I'm sure will be in the mix along with Colorado. It doesn't get any easier for BYU in terms of the level of competition they're going to be facing, literally game in and game out in the Big 12, but also the fact you don't get a midweek bye like they had, I think, what was that? It was the week of maybe it was the Cincinnati game. Correct me if I'm wrong. I'm probably wrong about that, but to not have any buys over a 10-week stretch where you're playing 2 league games every week, whether it's a Tuesday, Wednesday, and then you're playing Saturday in BYU's case, gear up. It is going to be an absolute gauntlet for any team that figures to be finishing atop the Big 12. And the way Kevin Young is going about recruiting right now, he does need to get some guys signed. Let's be very clear about that. You got to make sure you get the guys into the program in the first place. But if they have their horses for the BYU basketball team, they're absolutely going to be battle tested coming through this. Frankly, going through a 20-game league schedule of the Big 12, any team who emerges from that in the top half of the league absolutely, in my mind, deserves a single-digit seed in the NCAA tournament because they will have proven themselves and they will have battled their way through probably the toughest slate of games in college basketball, bar none. I love the ACC saying that we're the best basketball league in the conference, and the Big East obviously likes to make claims about that. The SEC, I'm sure would want to have their say, but there is no if, and, or but about it. The Big 12 is the premier basketball conference in the country. And oh, by the way, you added the likes of Arizona, Utah, and Colorado and ASU to the mix next year. Ooh, it only gets tougher, and you're going to compress that schedule or your 20 games over 10 weeks. Yeah, if you make your way through that, you deserve to have a pretty good seed in the NCAA tournament, in my mind. All right, that is going to do it for this edition of Locked On Cougars. Once again, a big thank you to all of you, but more importantly, a big thank you to Austin Leausa for joining us here on the podcast. It was good to get to know him, obviously get his insight of what he expects to contribute to the BYU football program. Really cool to hear him that he's a big BYU fan growing up. He's living his dream as a member of the BYU Cougars, and that's a really, really cool story in and of itself. And you can guarantee that fandom that he has for BYU will encourage him to put on even more so for BYU when he suits up, in theory, in that number 55 jersey coming up this fall. But once again, a big thank you to all of you for your support of the podcast. As always, please continue to subscribe, rate, review, make sure to share it with your family and friends. Click the likes, notifications, wherever you get this podcast. Just essentially help the algorithm love us so it can love more people and share it with more people as well. But obviously, big thank you as always for making it your first listen of the day. And thank you to all of you who are everydayers with us right here as well. And until tomorrow, my friends, have a great rest of your day. This has been the Locked On Cougars podcast.